a lot of politicians actually have astrologers on their staff because they really, going back to Queen Elizabeth and John D and all that stuff.
Reagan.
But yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Because they understand that. And of course, this is a powerful tool that they want to use for themselves. And that can go down a whole discussion, but there's a guy named James Shelby Downard that a lot of OGs are familiar with. Mark knows what's up. He's actually, I only learned about him a couple years ago through a friend of mine. Ryan Page turned me on Downard, and it's blowing my mind because this guy has been around he's long dead, but he was one of the first to ever talk about synchromysticism, which is basically a mixture of synchronicity and mysticism, right? It goes a step further beyond just what Jung called the meaningful coincidences. It's like synchronicities that have a mystical purpose. And there he is. He was a wild dude, and he wrote an essay called "Call to Chaos," and he basically lays out an idea that the United States, he calls it a witch's cauldron for psychodramas, and he says they're conducting this on a mass. It's amazing. The dude's, this guy, man, I'm going to do a deep dive on him someday, but there's just so much to catch up on the guy. He called it, he said it was psychodramas conducted on a mass scale for a master plan that these people have. Generally, he sort of pokes fun at the Freemasons, but the plan ultimately is to bring in a new age. He says they do it through ritualistic crimes, sex, death, all these sort of different things. And that's, again, going back to the beginning of the show where Mark was talking about Crowley's Aeon of Horus and the Kali Yuga. It's just this idea of bringing about a new age. And that's what when you try to slice this down the middle of what's the difference between occultism and Christianity. Christianity is doing the will of God and Christ. Occultism is doing the will of man and self to become God. And, people could choose their side with that. And I could you could argue either side of that to me, and I wouldn't condemn either side of those things. But I think ultimately that's what the difference is. And we get wrapped around the axles with this whole like, oh, you believe in the devil with the pitchfork and it's going to be hot in hell. And it's not quite that simplistic, I don't think. I think it's a little more complex. But I do think in films like Late Night with the Devil, a lot of occult stuff has percolated through unintentionally. And like, for instance, it's 93 minutes long, which is the number that Aleister Crowley used as the summation for his religion, Thelema.